I'm going to comment on this magnificent interview between Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei and Wall Street Journal Editor-in-Chief Emma Tucker. In it, they talk about some fantastic things about the technological singularity, which is actually a spiritual inflection. Listening to what they talk about is extremely inspiring. So without further ado, let's watch this one together.
We're at Davos. There's a lot going on. But I wanted to start with a big picture question, which I'll characterize like this. It feels to me that this time last year, everybody was very excited about AI, and everyone was talking about what AI can do, its potential, its capabilities. It feels to me as though the debate has shifted somewhat this year to be less what can AI do to what is AI doing to the world. And I know that you think a lot about these things. So my question is, do you think businesses, policymakers, governments, whatever, are doing enough to prepare for the impact?
No. I'll explain the longer version now. I've been watching this field for 15 years, and I've been in this field for 10 years. And one of the things I've most noticed is that there's been the actual trajectory of the field has been surprisingly on the same trajectory, whereas the kind of public opinion and the reaction of the public has oscillated wildly. I would say that in two different ways. One is the capabilities of the technology. Every 3 to 6 months, we have this reversal of polarity, where the media is incredibly excited about what the technology can do. It's going to change everything, and then it's all a bubble. It's all going to fall apart. And what I see is this smooth exponential line where, similar to Moore's law for compute, we basically have a Moore's law for intelligence, where the model is getting more and more cognitively capable every few months, and that march has just been constant. The up and down, we invented a new thing, it's all going to crash, it's hitting a wall, it's going to go crazy. That is a public perception phenomenon. That's on the capability of the technology. I think there's a similar thing on the polarity of whether the technology is good or bad. Mm-hmm. In 2023 and 2024, there was a lot of concern about AI, right? There was, concern AIs are going to take over. There was a lot of talk about AI risk, AI misuse. Then in 2025, the political wind shifted, as you say, to AI opportunity. And now they're sort of shifting back. And I think throughout all of this, the approach that I have tried to take and the approach that Anthropic has tried to take is one of constancy, of saying that there is balance here. Mm-hmm. Balance of a very strange form, because I think the technology is very extreme in what it's capable of doing. But I think...
So this is such a good response that the Anthropic CEO is giving right now. He is characterizing the nature of the singularity as it's unfolding in real time. And you can hear in what he said that, and this is so good. I know I say this all the time, you guys, but it really is so good. There are lots of people who are offering their opinions about their opinions that waver between the promise and the peril of artificial intelligence. And depending on where people are standing, you're going to get an endorsement of the promise or an endorsement of the peril. Meanwhile, all that is doesn't have an opinion. All that is predisposed to promise. Everything that unfolds in physical reality is unfolding for the betterment of all that is, which includes you and I. And so this is why, this is so good what he has said. This is why when you are looking at, looks like my sounds are really high. Let me turn this down a bit. This is why when you're looking at the development of artificial intelligence, as Dario is saying, the progress is constant and it's consistent with Moore's law. So the process is exponential. The process is exponential. It's exponentially expanding in its capability. And the same is true with everything in physical reality. It's all exponential expansion, including your growth, my growth, and every other living being's growth. And so what we're seeing here is a constant expansion of the capability of this new idea, this new vibrational frequency that is artificial intelligence. And as it continues to unfold, people are trying to speculate as to whether or not it's going to be good or bad. That's what Dario was talking about at the end of that segment. But it's all good. There's nothing bad that's going to happen. It's all good. And as a result of this goodness, we're going to finally reveal to ourselves being human beings, that the world, the basis, one of the fundamental principles of physical reality is abundance. Freedom and abundance. That's what we're moving into, and artificial intelligence is establishing that. It's so interesting. I was having a conversation with someone dear to me just the day before yesterday, and she was arguing that artificial intelligence was going to somehow control us, or that the government was going to use artificial intelligence to control us. And she fears losing some of her freedoms, such as being able to drive, for example, because robotaxis and full self-driving is going to eventually the government's going to ban human drivers because it's just not safe to have human beings behind the wheel. And so she was concerned about losing that freedom. But she is missing the much larger freedom, which is no longer having to go to her job for 8 hours a day, away from her children, away from her boyfriend. And so there is tremendous promise in this unfolding. And underneath the peanut gallery, which is offering all kinds of opinions about where this is going to go, underneath that, as Dario described in this clip, it's constant expansion on a chartable path. And that path is showing evidence of the exponential expansion I was referring to. Let's keep watching. This is so good.
Its positive impacts and its negative impacts that, they both exist, right? I wrote this essay, Machines of Loving Grace, about 1.5 years ago. It had a very radical view of the upside of AI, that, it would help us to, cure cancer, eradicate tropical diseases, kind of bring economic development to parts of the world that haven't seen it. And my view hasn't changed. I believe all of those things. But the other side of it, which I'm now kind of writing more about and may release something about soon, is bad things will happen as well. If we just for an example, as one of the risks, we take the economic side of it. My view is the signature of this technology is it's going to take us to a world where we have very high GDP growth and potentially also very high unemployment and inequality. Now that's not.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm seeing too. And these are the economic disruptors that are going to force governments to radically redraft our social contracts. And that's a good thing. He's going to talk about this in a minute here, but it's worth stopping and talking about in detail. I won't be that long. So radical economic growth combined with radical unemployment, that is going to be a fantastic combination that for people who are predominantly pessimists, who see the glass half empty, those people are going to be quaking in their boots at this unfolding. Meanwhile, the people who see the glass as half full, who see the promise, are going to be like me. They're going to be ecstatic about this unfolding. And yes, there are going to be some people who are going to experience in their personal life experience some friction, some disruption. But closely following behind that is going to be a tremendous future of outstanding opportunity for everyone, and an economic growth engine propelled by artificial intelligence and humanoid robots following that is going to radically transform what humanity is all about, which is going to enable a decoupling of human focus on the grindstone, which will allow human beings to do what the technological singularity, which is actually a spiritual inflection, what that is causing within us as a society and a civilization, and that is turning toward the spiritual foundations that make up all of what we are. All of what we are. Let's keep watching. It's so good.
Not a combination we've almost ever seen before, right? You think of it as high GDP growth, that's lots of stuff to do, lots of jobs for everyone. It's always been like that in the past. We've never had a technology that's this disruptive. So the idea that we could have 5 or 10% GDP growth, but also, 10% unemployment, it's not logically inconsistent at all. It's just never happened that way before. And I'm really quite, for those both reasons, excited and worried. If I take an example, something like AI coding, the latest model we released, Claude Opus 4.5, I have some engineers, some engineering leads within Anthropic who have basically said to me, I don't write any code anymore. I just let Opus do the work and I edit it. We just released a new thing called Claude Cowork. We can go into that later. But this was a version of our tool, Claude Code, for non-coding. This was built in a week and a half, almost entirely with Claude Opus. There are still things for the software engineers to do, right? It's like even if the software engineers are only doing 10% of it, they can, they still have a job to do, or they can take a level up. That's not going to last forever. The models are going to do more and more. And so there's an incredible, this is a microcosm. You can see there's an incredible amount of productivity here. Software is going to become cheap, maybe essentially free. The premise that you need to amortize a piece of software you build across millions of users, that may start to be false. Like for this meeting, it might cost a few cents to just say, I don't know, let's make some apps so people can talk to each other. Or, it just may be very flexible and recyclable. But
so let's talk about this, because I read an article on the internet about this also. They were actually commenting on this interview. Dario is talking about software becoming so flexible, so inexpensive, that you could create a piece of software for specific use and then essentially throw it away. Now, in case you aren't familiar with business, when a software product is developed, it costs a lot of money. In the past, it has cost a lot of money to produce that piece of software. And Dario is talking about amortizing it across a class of customers. What that means is, when an organization builds a piece of software, the engineering cost of building that software is then spread across the customer base in the form of a price. That's why in the past, software has been relatively, actually very expensive in the early days, and it's come down a bit now because more people are used to using software, and so more people consume the software when it's produced. What he's talking about here is artificial intelligence has made creating software so efficient and inexpensive that you would actually consider building a piece of software for a specific use case, and then when you're done with that use case, throwing that piece of software away. That is exponential deflationary cost. And some people argue that we're not going to see a decrease in prices as artificial intelligence followed by humanoid robots become the mainstream labor. But what Dario is exploring here, giving this example of what's happening in the microcosm of his business, is going to happen all across the world. I wanted to say America because I'm in the United States, but all across the world. There is going to be deflationary pressure on all products and services that are touched by artificial intelligence and following the humanoid robots. And this is why there's going to be this age of abundance where anything you might want, Elon Musk has talked about this, anything you might want will be produced for you at very low to possibly no cost. And this is why the contrast of the disruption we're seeing is so important because the contrast is causing people to lean in the direction of the glass half full, not the glass half empty. Let's keep watching. This is so good, so exciting.
At the same time, there are whole jobs, whole careers that we built for decades that may not be present. And I think we can deal with it. I think we can adjust to it. But I don't think there's an awareness at all of what is coming here and the magnitude of it.
So how?
Yes, he's right. There is Elon Musk calls it a supersonic tsunami that is coming that most people aren't aware of. It is the phenomenon whereby everything is going to change seemingly overnight. For those people who are unaware, the pundits, the people who are invested in the status quo, those people can't see it. That's what Dario is talking about here. And when it unfolds, it's going to shock those people. But for those people who can perceive what's happening, those people who are deeply involved in the unfolding, like Dario and his teams, and those people who have an understanding of the spiritual principles underlying how physical reality works, it's obvious what's happening. And because we know that everything that's happening on this planet is positive, we are moving toward an extremely positive future. And that's what Dario sees. But in order to move there, we're going to have to move into a period of disruption where many jobs are going to go away. So Dario is talking about 10% unemployment. I think it might be more, but it doesn't matter what the percentage is. When the percentage gets high enough, the governments are going to step in and take measures that rewrite the social contract. And that's what's so exciting about all this. Let's keep going.
That's so interesting when you say that. So how do you think, in a world of high GDP growth, but also high unemployment, what does that do to society? And you said there are, people aren't thinking about it now. Can you give concrete examples of how society might organize itself to adapt to such a world?
Yeah. So, I think there's a few things. The first thing that we've done, that we've focused on, and this is not a solution so much as it is a first step, is we have this thing called the Anthropic Economic Index. We've had it for...
So I just want to talk quickly about this because I did not know Anthropic had this. If you don't know about the Anthropic Economic Index, you should go take a look at it. I'm going to put some screenshots here so you can see how pretty freaking awesome this tool is that they've created. It's a tool that allows you to see, at least with regard to Claude implementation, how artificial intelligence is impacting states in the United States, state by state in the United States, and then across the globe also. And it ranks the impact. It ranks which states are in front and which states are lagging behind. And when I looked at this thing, I was blown away by what they're reporting on this index. But what's really interesting about it for me is this index is just talking about Claude. It's not talking about Grok. It's not talking about Gemini. It's not talking about ChatGPT. And so if you look at this economic index and you can see the impact that AI is having across states and across nations, and then when you add to that speculatively what Grok, Gemini, and ChatGPT are doing, you start to see that there is a tremendous impact happening here, exactly along the lines of what Dario is talking about. Now, I have a client actually, who every Thursday or Friday, he sends me, he has an artificial intelligence tool that sends him individual quotes as far as well as news reports of people being laid off at companies that are vetted by the AI to make sure that they're bona fide pieces of evidence. And every week on Thursday and Friday, he sends me screenshots. I've put some on the screen here so you can see them. Some people are saying artificial intelligence is not taking away jobs, but the anecdotal evidence is showing that it is. It's happening right now. And this Anthropic Economic Index is more evidence of exactly what my client is discovering through his AI tool that's feeding him this information of people being laid off as a result of the impacts of AI. So this is all happening. And if you haven't looked at the index, I suggest that you go and take a look at it. I'll put the link, the URL to the index here on the screen so you can go to it. And I probably will put it in the description too if you don't know about it. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's extremely, extremely encouraging.
For about a year. We've updated it, I think, 4 or 5 times now. And what that does is a real-time index that lets you track what our model Claude is being used for. It goes across all the conversations and kind of uses Claude in a privacy-preserving way to kind of statistically query how Claude is being used. What are the tasks it's being used for? To what extent is it automating versus augmenting tasks? What industries is it being used in? How is it diffusing across states in the United States and countries in the world? We've just added kind of more and more detail here. And my view is until we can measure the shape of this economic transition, any policy is going to be blind and misinformed, right? Many policies have gone wrong because they're based on premises that are fundamentally incorrect. So that's step one. Step two is, I think we need to think very carefully about how do we allow people to adapt, right? People can adapt more quickly or they can adapt more slowly. This can mean adapting to use the technology within existing jobs. This can mean adapting, from one job to another job. For example, I think there are probably going to be more jobs in the physical world and less jobs in the knowledge work economy.
So let's talk about that real quick. More jobs in the physical world and less jobs in the, I think he said, the digital economy. I think that's going to happen at first. And I think in a second, in fact, let's just play it. I think he says it, but let's just play it to make sure I'm right.
Now, maybe eventually robotics, makes progress, but I think that's on a slower trajectory. So that's one. Are there?
That's what I thought he was going to say. So here's the thing. There are a lot of people who are suggesting that electricians and plumbers and physical engineer type people who work with atoms, those jobs are going to continue to be around for a while. But here's the thing. Humanoid robots are going to do to those jobs what AI is doing to the digital jobs that Dario is saying are going away. And so it's actually Elon Musk's supersonic tsunami is actually 2 tsunamis. The first one is artificial intelligence. The second one is humanoid robots. And so it's so cool. Dario here is kind of, I don't think he's doing this intentionally, but he's kind of placating us by telling us, hey, there are going to be some jobs that you're going to be able to move into. Don't worry about it. These physical jobs are going to be around for a while, but then humanoid robots are going to come. And the trajectory right now seems slow because the development of humanoid robots is behind. It's on the same exponential curve that artificial intelligence is on. It's just further behind. And so I'm telling you guys, when you get humanoid robots making humanoid robots, all bets are off with regard to human labor. All bets are off. And that's an exciting thing because that introduces the abundance economy, which then introduces tremendous opportunity for leisure, while at the same time, high incomes that are born of the redistribution of double-digit year-over-year GDP growth. Oh, it's so good. Let's keep watching.
That have, still kind of, really value a human touch. Some of them do, some of them don't. We may find out how important that is in the market and where it's most important. At the level of companies, what are the moats when software becomes cheap and then subsequently the rest of knowledge work becomes cheap? We don't know. We've never quite asked that question. We've thought about moats in a certain way. So there's going to be a huge scramble at the level of companies. So, teaching people to adapt, teaching them what to expect, I think is the second step. And the third step is, I think there's going to need to be some role for government in a displacement that's this macroeconomically large. I just don't see how it doesn't happen. The pie is going to...
Notice what he said, macroeconomically large displacement. It is inevitable, and government's going to have to come in and play a role. It's inevitable, you guys. It's inevitable, and when it happens, you're going to see this wealth redistribution that all the UBI and UHI proponents have been talking about.
Much larger, right? Like the money is going to be there. Like, the budget may balance without us doing anything because there's so much growth.
Did you hear that? The budget, the deficit, the U.S. deficit is going to balance itself because the growth is going to be so tremendous. And this is why I've been saying the challenges that human beings are focusing on and then wringing their hands around are going to be automatically taken care of as we move through the technological singularity, which is a spiritual inflection. It is a moment stretched over apparent time. Time isn't real, but it's a moment in time in which human beings leaning in the direction of what they want are triggering a future probable alignment to a future probable reality where all of their dreams manifest. And that's what we're seeing. Now, some people dream about the deficit being balanced. Some people dream about a universal basic or high income. Some people dream about never having to work again. Some people dream about money disappearing from the planet. There are all kinds of people that are dreaming all kinds of things. And the great thing about this is the technological singularity that is a spiritual inflection is fulfilling each and every one of our individual dreams. Dreams are nothing but desires, and every desire is fulfilled when the desirer aligns to and lines up with that which they desire instead of focusing on that which they think is preventing the desire. And that's what we're seeing. I get so excited talking about this because it's exciting to talk about. Let's keep watching.
The issue is distributing it to the right people. And so I think this is probably a time to worry less about disincentivizing growth and worry more about making sure that everyone gets a part of that growth. Which I know is the opposite of the prevailing sentiment now, but I think technological reality is about to change in a way that forces our ideas to change.
So
I love what he just said. Technological reality is going to force us to change what we believe. And yes, he's right. There are people who have ideologies that argue that people shouldn't get money for free. But that shit's going to change. It's going to have to. At the end of this interview, you guys should download or go to YouTube and watch this video. I'll put a link in there. But at the end of the video, I didn't include it here, but at the end of this video, Dario says, ideology will not survive what's coming. Ideology will not survive what's coming, which means those people who believe that other human beings should behave a certain way, that shit's not going to stand. Artificial intelligence is going to upend all of that. And that's why this spiritual inflection is so promising. And that's why I'm so excited about it. Let's keep watching.
in your desire to create this greater sense of urgency, are you speaking to people in the administration? I mean, Anthropic hasn't always been the sort of first on the guest list for this administration, but do you have people there that you're talking to?
I have said it to them myself, and you know, to be clear, there are plenty of things we agree on, right? You know, I think the AI action plan that the administration put out in the middle of this year actually had some very good ideas here. You know, I think we probably agreed with the vast majority of it. But I think most of all, we just want to say these things in public and kind of have a public debate about them, right? We don't control policy. I think the most useful thing we can do is describe to the world what we're seeing and provide data to the world. And then it's left to the public in a democracy to take that data and to use it to drive policy. We can't drive policy on our own.
So this is one of the most inspiring videos I've seen so far relative to the manifestation of my personal desires. I see so much promise in what's happening now and what's coming. And Dario here has fleshed it out for us. It's so good. Take a look at the Anthropic Economic Index. It's amazing. I've put a link into the description. This has been I'm so inspired when I do these commentary videos because they're so inspiring. But in order for them to be inspiring, you have to understand the fundamental spiritual dynamics underlying how physical reality works. You have to understand that everything that's happening on this planet is positive. You have to understand that everything that's happening on this planet is getting better and better and better and better and better, and there's no end to that. You have to realize that you are an eternal being here for the joy of the expansion that's occurring. And your participation here is intentional. You came here on purpose because you knew that this was the time to be here. If all of that sounds like bullshit to you, I suggest you consider becoming a client of the Positively Focused practice. I have links in the description of this video where you can test drive a free one-on-one with me for 30 minutes. I can give you an experience of what it feels like to be in the practice. If you're ready to become a client, I have a link in the description there where you can become a client. In any case, I've enjoyed putting this video together because it was inspired by my broader perspective. You have a great day because you are having a great day that is part of a fantastic life. And I'll see you in the next video.